Hey guys, tonight I'm going to give you a break on your lab for this week, and I still want you to learn the material, but you don't have to come to campus. So anyway, what I wanted to do is go through all of the leg muscles. So you'll need to get your handout. So pause this video and go get your handout that I gave you last week. If you don't have it, you can run by my office and pick one up during the week. But anyway, I'm going to turn the phone around, and now here you see the handout, and I've got some of the leg muscles laid out, and then I've got one up here on a stand. So hopefully this will help you as you try to learn these muscles. So on the handout, what we're going to do is start with the upper leg front and start with the gracilis muscle. And that muscle is the most medial muscle of the thigh. So here we're looking at the leg. I'll try to back it up so you can see it in full. And I'm going to zoom in to the medial surface of the thigh. And right here is the gracilis muscle. So just think about doing sideways splits. And this is that muscle that would stretch. Okay, and now what we're going to do on your handout, it says move around to the front. So we're going to come to the front, go up to the large part of the gracilis. The next muscle right here is the adductor longus muscle. You see just a bit of it right here. And then this next one is the sartorius. It runs diagonally across the front of the thigh. And so here you can see it from the front. There you see, way up there. Okay. And then the next group of muscles, this one, this one, this one, and then a fourth one that's underneath the one in the middle. All four of those are the quadriceps femoris, commonly called the quads. The one that's on the top, the main muscle of this group, is called the rectus femoris. And then on either side of it, just above the knee, you see the vastus muscles. There's a vastus medialis. So do you see it's on the medial surface, vastus medialis? And then the vastus lateralis is on the lateral surface. The vastus intermedium is in between these two muscles underneath the one on the top, which is the rectus femoris. So vastus medialis, vastus intermedium underneath here, vastus lateralis, and rectus femoris. All four of those make up the quadriceps. Okay, now as we move on laterally, now look up towards the top, up towards the hip. This muscle that's connected to a long tendon called the iliotibial tract, or the IT band. All right, this is the tensor fasciae lati, and a lot of people call that the Starbucks muscle. And then as you come around, then there's the famous gluteus maximus. Just up underneath it is the gluteus medius. I'm not sure if that one's on your handout, but the big one, the buttocks muscle, is gluteus maximus. And then as you move to the back, it immediately, at first glance, looks like there's two muscles at the back. It's actually three muscles. On the medial surface, there's one called the biceps femoris. And then on the lateral, on the lateral side, there's a biceps femoris. And then on the medial side of the back of the thigh are two muscles. The one that you see is mostly the semitendinosus, but then if you look real closely, there's one sticking out from underneath it that runs the length there, and you may even see it on the medial surface here. This is the semimembranosus. So there's semitendinosus on top, semimembranosus up underneath it, and then this is the biceps femoris. Students many times confuse the biceps femoris on the back, biceps back, with the rectus femoris that's on the front of the thigh. Okay, so now if we move on around, keep going, we're right back at the gracilis muscle that's on the medial surface. So that gives you a little bit better view. Now you also need to look at these in your textbook. Your ebook has in the chapter on the skeletal system, which I believe is chapter 9 on the skeletal system. You see a lot of leg views already labeled for you. And then of course in your lab manual, you see these unlabeled. So make sure that you can label the ones in your lab manual that deal with the legs, the upper and the lower leg, which we've not done yet. So now, here you see the lower leg, and if you start, it says start medially at the inside of the leg, which is where we are. But if you look right here in front of the bone, there's the tibia. Just in front of it is the tibialis anterior. Okay, so here's the tibialis anterior, and then we're going to keep going around from that point laterally. So tibialis anterior in front of the tibia. The next one over is the extensor digitorum longus. So you had one of these, extensor digitorum, in the hand, and it controlled the digits. So this controls the digits on the foot, which are the toes. So it extends them. Okay, and then the next one, if you go over to the big part of it and go over like we did with the arm, the next one you see here is the fibularis muscle. Fibularis. It's actually in two pieces, the longus and the brevis, but you can call the whole thing the fibularis. And then as you move on around to the back, the big calf muscle, it actually looks like two muscles, but that's all one muscle. It's called the gastrocnemius. And then underneath it, if we peek underneath it right here, is the soleus. So there's the soleus on one side of the gastrocnemius, and then here you see the soleus on the other side. Okay, the soleus goes under the gastrocnemius and also under the tendon that the gastrocnemius has to connect to the heel. That's the famous Achilles tendon, and the soleus is underneath it. Achilles tendon or calcaneal tendon. Okay, and so here's gastrocnemius, and then here we have soleus. You can see a little section of it right there. And then just behind the tibia is the flexor digitorum longus. This one actually would go up underneath the metatarsals to the flexor side of the digits and cause your toes to curl, which is flexion of the toes, extension, flexion. Okay. All right. Now I've covered all of these muscles that are on this page 4 of your handout. Now, if you look at the next page, this is just showing you some origins and insertions and actions of muscles that we went over, a few that we went over last week, and then the gluteus maximus from this week. You do need to learn these, so make sure you know these origins and insertions. And if you know where the muscles are located, the origin and insertions are pretty easy because you already know the bones. All right, then on the last one, the last page, these are just some of the muscles that I've gone over with you today, and it's just giving you the numbers on the various models. The stand leg, which is this one, the big one that I just showed you, and then also the free leg are these that are lying on the table. So let me quickly run over all of the muscles again on these that are lying down, and then we'll be done. Okay, so if we start, I may not be going in the same order, but I'm going to start with the upper leg on the medial surface. This is the gracilis right here on the medial surface, and then the next is the adductor longus, and then here is your sartorius. That's the big diagonal muscle. And then on the front you have the quadriceps group. I'm not sure I can hold this still. All right, so there's the rectus femoris, the vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, and vastus intermedium would be underneath the rectus femoris. Moving it around, the tensor fasciae lati attached to the IT band, and then the gluteus maximus, and if you named gluteus medius, there it is there. I'm not sure that's on your handout. Gluteus maximus. And then coming on around, now you have your hamstrings, which are made up of, on the back, your biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and then underneath the semitendinosus, you can just barely see it sticking out on the side there, number 17. That's semimembranosus. You also see it medially right here. Okay, and then moving on around, we're right back at the gracilis muscle. On the lower leg, if you start just on the medial surface, but just in front of, I'm going to go over to the other model. Right here in front of the tibia, so you can see it from the medial view, but it's actually on the top here. The one that's number, what is that, number 33. Okay, that's tibialis anterior, and then the next one is the extensor digitorum longus. See how it goes to the toes? Extensor digitorum longus. Fibularis runs down the fibula. There you see fibula. And then coming back, on the back of it, you have your gastrocnemius, the big bulging one. And then on either side, the little soleus, it's underneath it. So there you see soleus right there. It's underneath the Achilles tendon or calcaneal tendon. And then there's the flexor digitorum longus that goes up underneath the foot to the digits to make the toes curl. Okay. Well, that will be it for this week's lab. You do have a lab quiz. Remember, it's extended from the one last week because all the leg muscles are on that quiz too, so that should help you. All right, so you have a break this week. Remember, this week you may not get another one ever again like this one. So make sure you learn all these muscles. There may have been one or two of you who were not here last week when we did all of the other muscles of the body. Make sure you get the handout and start reviewing those. You've got real good pictures in your textbook, in the ebook, and also in your lab manual. And if you want to run by my office and ask questions, always feel free to do that. Okay, goodbye.